Now let's create an eligibility rule, because in this system we don't have one. So create comp eligibility rule. Okay, and let me create one called www managers or above. Okay, and what should be the source? External field or condition rule? If I want to do a managers or above. Management level, correct management level. Compensation right. So I just use the word com so that it finds it easily, and I will go to any in the selection list, because I need to specify a list right if it's managers or above, so I will use 6, manager, director, vice president, executive vice president and chief executive officer. So manager, director, vice president, executive vice president and CEO. These are the management levels that I want. Okay. Now, if I am saying managers or above, would I create something which says non-managers? It makes sense, right? It makes sense for at least consistency. So let's create one more, which says non-managers. I will just copy it here and I will say, non-managers. Right. And now again, if I do a non-managers, and what should I do again management level, and then I select, okay, ones which are not managers. But you see, I'm doing my non-managers. I want it to be very similar to the managers rule that I created, right? So you see, I can copy a condition from a rule. I can. I click. Okay, let me show you one more time. What the magic I did in the copy condition from rule field. I put in my other rule, press enter and you see, automatically it adds the rows from that particular rule. This is the row that I had in the managers or above rule, isn't it management level any? The selection list and a bunch of values in the comparison bed, correct? This is what I did just a few minutes ago, 1 or 2 minutes ago, and if I copy it from there, it automatically copies that rule into my current rule. So I will just remove that blank row at the bottom, and here I'm looking at non-managers. Okay, I'm looking at non-managers. So how do I write the rule? It says non-managers, none in the selection list. Absolutely none in the selection list. If I say none in the selection list, it is actually a not condition. So if somebody is in this selection list, I mean in this list of values, then they are not eligible. I mean the other way around. If somebody who is not in this list, they are eligible. So that means non-managers in our case. You see, I just flipped the relational operator, or I could have done it the other way around. I could have done like any in the selection list, and here I would have chosen 7 supervisor and 8 individual contributor. I could have done that would have been perfectly fine. No problem. But I think this is a better way of doing it, like none in the selection list, right? You agree because you see, I copied over the same thing. Managers are above, so I just flipped the condition instead of checking any in the selection list. I will say none in the selection. Okay. Alright, and I can. After I have copied it, I can remove it from the copy condition because my task is done. Click OK to save this. Now I will go back to my allowance plan. I will use the task edit allowance plan with the same effective date of 24th. Let's find the car allowance. And now what I'm going to do is, in the plan eligibility, I will say manager or above. Now tell me what this will do. Yes. So, if my manager is in US, they will get $1,200. If they are in the UK, they'll get £900. First is, if you have to be able to get the car allowance. Okay. Okay now. Now let's say, I will give you a very crude and maybe even a poor example. But let's say, in a party you can have veg food or non-veg food. Correct. You can have vegetarian food or non-vegetarian food. But what is the criteria for you to have that food in the party? You have to be invited to the party without getting invited to the party. Can you have the vegetarian food or the non-vegetarian food? I mean unless you crash the party. I mean unless, apart from that, you have to be invited there. So this rule, right here is the invitation. This will make you eligible for that allowance. Whether you are going for veg food or non-veg food. That is here. But first, you have to be eligible for that allowance, right? Otherwise, how will we define what is the amount? You are not even eligible. So to understand which of people are eligible for the plan for the allowance. That is what we will define, the plan eligibility. Okay. If you want to define different amounts for different set of populations, that is what you will define here. Got it. Same for compensation grade as well. If you are having the same compensation grade for everyone, same range of pay for everybody, then you don't need a great profile, correct? Similarly here. If you are going to give the same allowance to every manager or above, you don't need to create plan profiles. Right, if you're going to have the same amount, you don't need to have different profiles. Now, what can be another example of a car allowance? I mean of this eligibility rule at the plan profile level. Let's say your manager is getting $1,200, your directors are getting $1,500 and your CEO is getting $2,000, then how will you do it? So managers or above are eligible for a car allowance. But what is the amount? Manager, $1,200, $1,200, director, $1,500. Okay, or let's say vice president. $1,800, CEO $2,000. How would you do it? One eligibility rule that we create is manager or above, where we will assign that. At the allowance plan level, right, and then we will create 4 eligibility rules based on the management level. Right, 1 for manager, 1 for director, 1 for VP, 1 for CEO, and we will assign this to the land profiles. Understood, and we will specify the different amounts, $1,200 for allowance. Sorry for manager, director, vice president and CEO.